Hi guys, it's Miss Catalano. I hope you all are doing well at home. Today I'm going to teach you how to multiply and divide variables with exponents. So the rules, there are two in this case. The first rule is that we have to multiply the coefficients, and the second rule is that we have to add the exponents for each term. Now, if you forget, a coefficient is always going to be the number in front of your variable. In this case, our coefficient is 3. It's in front of our variable, which is x. Then we're going to add the exponent. The exponent is the little number that's on top of your variable, or that's connected to your variable. So this reads 3 as the coefficient, x to the 4th power as our variable, and our exponent. So let's get to let's get to more rules about multiplying exponents. Can you tell that Miss Catalano is tired? I can. So with multiplying exponents, which is unlike subtracting and adding them, they can be unlike to multiply them together, and that's what actually makes this work. So if you saw the PowerPoint, multiplying exponents, and I'll actually write it on here. So if I have x to the 7th, all that means is x times x times x times x times x times x, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times x. Okay? And then if I multiply that by x squared, well, x squared just means x times x. The multiplication of x to the 7th and x squared is just the addition of all these x terms. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 x's. X to the 7th times x squared is x to the 9th. So I basically would just add the x's, or the exponents, to make it easier for us to get x to the 9th. And we're going to do that all today. So our first set, actually I'll flip this upside down so you don't get confused. Our first example is 4x to the 8th times 3x to the 4th. So we're multiplying the coefficients, first step. So 4 times 3 is 12. And then we're adding the exponents. X to the 8th and x to the 4th. If I add 8 plus 4, I get 12. So 12x to the 12th is my answer. Let's move on to the second. So I'm going to multiply my coefficients. 12 times negative 2. 12 times negative 2 is negative 24. And I'm going to add my exponents. I have x to the 3rd and x squared. I add them. 3 plus 2 gives me x to the 5th. So, multiplying the coefficients to get negative 24, adding the exponents to get x to the 5th, 12x to the 3rd times negative 2x squared gives me negative 24x to the 5th. Now, what if I have something that looks like this and I don't have an exponent in front of the x? Well, if I don't have an exponent in front of the x, it's technically a 1. Kind of like how we did problems where we had x cubed and we said, okay, what's the coefficient in front of the x? And there's nothing there. There's technically a hidden 1 there, 1x cubed. Same thing with this. If this does not have an exponent, but there is an x there, it's technically x to the 1st power. And we proceed how we usually would after that. 15 times 3 is 45. So multiplying the coefficients of 15 and 3. And then I'm going to add the exponents, my second step. 1 and 4 make x to the 5th. Therefore, 15x to the 1st times 3x to the 4th gives me 45x to the 5th. All right, our next example, we have 13x to the 9th times 2x to the negative 4th. So now I have a negative exponent. We're going to figure out what that means in a little bit. But first, we have to do the first step, which is multiplying the coefficients. 13 and 2 are the numbers in front of x, so those are my coefficients. 13 times 2 is 26. Then I'm going to add the exponents. I have 9 plus -4. 9 plus -4 is like the same thing as 9 minus 4. Or if you want to plug in 9 plus -4 into your calculator, you are 100% welcome to do so. 9 plus -4, or 9 minus 4, gives me x to the 5th. Wow, 3 answers in a row where it's x to the 5th. That was not intentional. Okay, so 13x to the 9th times 2x to the -4th is 26x to the 5th. So even though we're doing multiplication, technically we're supposed to add the exponents, but in this case, because of this negative exponent, we added a negative. All right, and we have 2 more examples after this. So 9x to the 0 times 7x squared. Our first step is to multiply the coefficients. 9 is in front of x, that's why it's a coefficient, and 7 is in front of x, so that's why it's a coefficient. 9 times 7 is 63. My second step is to add the exponents. I have 0 and I have 2. 0 plus 2 is 2, so x squared. 9x to the 0 times 7x squared is 63x squared. Our last example is when we have multiple numbers or multiple terms in an equation. 4x squared times 3x to the 8th times x to the 4th. You do the same thing. The coefficient to this one times the coefficient to this one times the coefficient to this one. Remember, there's no coefficient in front, so technically it's an invisible 1. So let's do the multiplication. 4 times 3 is 12, times 1 is 12. My second step, that was supposed to be in pink. Miss Catalano ruined the color coding. My second step is to add the exponents. I have 2 and 8 and 4. 2 plus 8 is 10. 10 plus 4 is 14. So my answer to 4x squared times 3x to the 8th times 1x to the 4th would be 12x to the 14th. 2 plus 8 is 10, plus 4 is 14. Now, how do we multiply if there is, or Miss Catalano isn't good at English, more than one variable? So let's take a look. We take it one step at a time. So that type of problem I'm talking about, or that type of instruction I'm talking about, these problems. So I have more than one variable in a multiplication problem. Let's look at this one first. I have x's and y's, and my advice is to take it one step at a time. Our first step is to multiply the coefficients. My coefficients would be 3 and 6. We all know what 3 times 6 is. It's 18. Because these are 2 separate variables, I treat them separately. So I look at the x's first, and I combine my x's only, because x's are different than y's. So I have x squared and x to the 3rd. Those are the 2 that I'm adding for the x's. X squared and x to the 3rd, we add. 2 plus 3 is x to the 5th. Now I take care of my y's. I have y to the 4th and y to the 7th. I still add them, but instead of adding it, or adding 2 and 3, I'm adding 4 and 7. So I focused on my x first, now I'm focusing on my y's first. 4 plus 7 is 11. So y to the 4th times y to the 7th is y to 11th. Therefore, 3x squared y to the 4th times 6x cubed y to the 7th gives me 18x to the 5th y to the 11th. Sounds like a mouthful, but it's not that hard. And we'll do this one as well. So, first step, handle the coefficients. My coefficients are 2 and 8. Multiply them. 2 times 8 is 16. Then I work on my variables of, or my exponents of x. I have x to the nothing here. Remember, if it's x to the nothing, it's x to the first times x to the 0. I add my variables when they are being multiplied together. So I have 1 and I have 0. X to the first times x to the 0. 1 plus 0 is 1. Then I work on my y's. I have y to the third times y to the 13th. When I multiply my variables, I add their exponents. So 3 plus 13 gives me y to the 16th. So 2x to the first, y to the third, times 8x to the 0, y to the 13th, gives me 16x to the first, y to the 6th. We are now done with multiplying exponents. Let's go to dividing exponents. So the rules are the same. We divide the coefficients and we subtract the exponents. So I take back what I said. They're not the same, but they're similar. So when we divide the exponents, divide the coefficients instead of multiplying, and subtract the exponents instead of adding. And like multiplication, the terms can be unlike in order to combine them. Let's work on the first one. So I have 4x to the 9th divided by 2x to the 4th. My first step is to divide the coefficients. So my two coefficients are 14 and 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. My second step is to subtract the exponents. So I have an exponent of 9 and I have an exponent of 4. The division bar is like a subtraction sign. 9 minus 4 is 5. So 14x to the 9th divided by 2x to the 4th is 7x to the 5th. Let's do the second one. 12x to the 3rd divided by negative 2x squared. So because there's a negative, my answer is going to be negative. First step is to divide the coefficients. 12 is my first, negative 2 is my second. 12 divided by negative 2 is negative 6. Then my second step is to subtract the exponents. 3 and 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. So negative 6x to the first is the answer. You could also write it as negative 6x. Either or is correct. And the last one, 15x to the 9th over 3x. Remember, if it's just 3x to the nothing, it's technically 3x to the first. My first step is to divide the coefficients. So 15 divided by 3 gives me 5. And my second step is to subtract the exponents. 9 minus 1 is x to the 8th. All right, let's move on to this side. 28x to the 4th divided by 7x to the negative 3rd. Sorry, I'm grabbing my pen. First step is to divide the coefficients. 28 is the first coefficient, the number in front of x, and 7 is the second coefficient, or the second number in front of x. 28 divided by 7 is 4. My second step is to subtract the exponents. Now, this is to the negative 3rd power. Be sure that you understand that. So what we are doing is 4 minus negative 3. 4 minus negative 3. Remember, minus a negative turns into a positive. So this is technically 4 plus 3, or x to the 7th. If you get confused, remember, this division bar is like subtraction. So every time you see it, you know you're subtracting. Even though there's a negative in here, that doesn't take place of the division bar. 4 minus negative 3. 4 minus negative 3. If you don't understand this, just plug in 4 minus negative 3 into a calculator, and you should also get 7. All right, first step, divide the coefficients for the fifth one. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Our second step is to subtract the exponents. 4 minus 0 is 4. 4x to the 4th is the answer to 16x to the 4th over 4x to the 0. All right, our last one. 22x to the 3rd over 11x to the 16th. So here I have a bigger exponent on the bottom than on the top, which is totally fine. You still proceed the same. First step is to divide the coefficients. 22 divided by 11 is 2. And my second step is to subtract the exponents. 3 and 16. 3 minus 16, 3 minus 16 is negative 13. You could plug that into your calculator if you didn't know that off the top of your head. So 22x to the 3rd divided by 11x to the 16th is 2x to the negative 13. It is okay for now to have a negative exponent. Don't worry about that. That is the correct answer. All right, so how do we divide if there is more than one variable? Kind of like how we multiplied, we have to take it one step at a time. So this is an example of x's and y's in the same division problem. We take it one step at a time. So the first step is to divide the coefficients. 30 divided by 6 is 5. And our second step is to work one variable at a time and subtract their exponents. So I'm going to work on the x's first. 4 minus 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. So x to the first would be that variable. Then I work on my second variable, y. Y to the 5th. And y to the 3rd. And you do the subtraction. 5 minus 3, that's 2. So 5x to the 1st, y to the 2nd would be your answer. And for the last one, same process. 27a to the 12th, b to the 6th, over 3a to the 9th, b to the 4th. First step is to divide the coefficients. 27 divided by 3 is 9. Sorry, I just burped. Too much information. Second step is to subtract your a coefficients, or your a variables, I'm sorry. Your variables are your letters. So you're going to start with the a's and then work on the b's. So I'm going to do a to the 12th and a to the 9th. 12 minus 9 is a to the 3rd. Then I work on my b's. Don't combine your a's and b's together. So I have a 6 here and I have a 4 here. And I do the same thing. 6 minus 4 gives me b to the 2nd power. 27 divided by 3 is 9. 12 minus 9 is 3. 6 minus 4 is 2. So your answer to this problem would be 9a to the 3rd b squared. All right, guys, so that's how we multiply and divide exponents. As always, email myself or Mr. Park if you have any questions. You also have a worksheet that you need to turn in on Google at the end of today by 11:59 p.m. Make sure to reach out if you don't understand anything. And I will talk to you guys soon. We're also doing a live Zoom tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. It is mandatory. That means you have to attend it. Also, on Thursday, we have our quiz, and that Zoom will help us study for our quiz. So make sure you attend, guys. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye now.